pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any comments from the public? Present, anyone on Zoom? Our first agenda item is fire alarm fines, fire district's request for an increase. I am going to recuse myself because I'm still the treasurer for the fire district. So I get paid by them and the town, so can't sit in on when they're coming to make a request. So turn it over to you and somebody tell me when they can come back. All right, will do.
Anyone coming from the fire district?
No, no one from the fire district can make it today, but Chief is going to give us a update. So I'm just waiting for Amber to leave and then. You have the floor, Chief.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Right. So I just wanted to update the board on where we're at with this process. At least several weeks ago, we received a letter from the fire district concerned about alarm billing and their receipt of funds. But more importantly, they felt that because of excessive repeat offenders, they thought we needed a change to our code to inhibit or reduce those numbers of repeat offenders. So because the police department is very involved in this process, we respond to the same calls, and we also keep records and share those records with the town clerk. I've been involved in this process. So since we've received that letter, myself, Tom Crouch from the town attorney's side of the town, Amber, the town clerk, and Amber, the town supervisor, met. And my concern was, before we discuss a change to policy, that we make sure we're doing or enforcing what we currently have in town code. And one of the things that I noticed was that we had some issue with process. And before I would recommend or suggest a change to code, that we make sure that we're processing our alarm calls properly. So we have discovered some issues with our process, and we're actively working on that. That first meeting we had with the 4 people I mentioned, including myself, we made some headway. In the meantime, I've spoken with the chair of the fire district commissioners, Hap Bowditch, and today Tony Ryder also came into my office because Hap couldn't make the meeting today, so Tony was going to stand in for him. And after discussions with both of them, we collectively felt that it's probably in our best interest to table this for 1 month, right? And allow the town and our processes to take place. And let's take a look at how we're handling these. And then if after a month they can come back in at that time, we can review those processes where we're at and then reflect any changes if necessary. So Tony and Hap were in agreement with that. They're not going to attend today. They're comfortable with the town doing some self-reflection and looking at how we can do this better, and then getting back with us in the future if need be.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So we'll plan on meeting back up in about a month.
And so, look, I want to hold our own feet to the fire, Meg. So if we can put that on an agenda that's a month from now, I think there's some real merit to that.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Nobody has anything on that. We can bring Amber back in and go on to the next item.
Yeah. Sorry, can I slip through the door here? Elsie got the alarm, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I have an issue there. I discussed it with Amber.
Meg, we can't see who's speaking.
Can you come up to the
Jimmy.
podium?
Yes.
Sorry, and announce your name.
Yeah, hi, John Westervelt here.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm here, I met with you first before I came over here about the alarms. Now, I have an activated alarm on February 19th, March 13th, May 17th, and on the one on 5/19, May 19th, as soon as the alarm went off, I picked up the phone, I called 0600. We would probably have a record of that. I'd asked you about this. And so with the first fine, okay, I'm willing to eat that, the $200. My fourth offense, which was my second fine, was $400. Now, I think, Jimmy, when I think you had your secretary call me, and somebody had responded to the firehouse, but I don't believe a fire truck left the station or a policeman did not respond to my house on that one. So when the alarm went off, I've had a problem with my alarm company, okay? That's another story. But when I pick up the phone, I call 0600, that ought to take care of it right there. So the first fine that I have, I'm willing to just pay that. And the second one is in question. So that's the reason I'm here.
Right. And so probably I'm best to answer this right now. One, John, I think you should meet with the town attorney to discuss this because it's probably the right venue.
Okay,
And if you recall, John, I also did mention to you, once that alarm goes out, the fire whistle goes off, all the firemen proceed to the firehouse. They stop what they're doing for the day. And not for the complete day, but they all get pulled from their jobs. I can't call that back, even though I appreciate that you called 0600 and said it was a false alarm. Those
Yeah.
volunteer firemen still respond to the firehouse. That they didn't deploy from the firehouse is irrelevant. So I just wanted to share with you, I'm being open and honest in this dialogue, but you
Yeah.
have to understand that once that call goes out, that whistle goes off, they all respond. So there's no pulling it back, so to speak.
okay. I did the best I could, just trying
Understood. I'm not discounting that.
right.
But I think the
About
town
this.
attorney is the best person to speak with regarding that.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
John, this is Thomas. He's our attorney.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I didn't mean in public either.
yeah.
yeah, no, but I'm saying he can set up a meeting with Thomas after.
Sure.
Can you just you want to give me your phone number and I'll call you?
Sure. My cell is area code 516-238-3999.
Okay, great. I'll give you a call.
All right, thanks. I gotta run back to work, so thanks for letting me speak.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can bring Amber now. Next topic we have on the agenda is the facility master plan and Joe Fenora. Use master plan. Here's Joe. I figured he was walking downstairs, upstairs.
Oh, you guys moved quicker than I was expecting. Okay, hello, everyone. Last week I distributed a draft scope of work about the facilities master plan to the town board. I believe the purpose of today's discussion is just to review what I sent to you, and I'm looking for feedback on how you might want the scope adjusted. For some background, the town had been deliberating on whether to proceed with a facilities master plan regarding the center, largely the center buildings. The master plan was supposed to help integrate and consolidate our approach towards upgrades and improvements. Originally, the project was slated to help us understand specific infrastructure needs regarding water and wastewater. But since then, I've modified this draft to include more qualitative needs for the structures and facilities. Specifically, a look at our programming, our staffing locations, and to help us better understand how to allocate funds, how to allocate resources for repairs and upgrades over our different buildings. The scope is largely inclusive of this town hall complex, which is this building we're sitting in here, the building department, and the assessor's office, the justice court, police department, the community center, our senior center, and our EMS building. We had largely not considered those structures, those last two bullet points, the senior center and the EMS building, for consideration because of their distance from the center. For infrastructure purposes, they'd always assumed to be independent. But my proposed scope of work now, including programming, makes those buildings very relevant for discussion. Those, specifically the senior center, house a lot of our town-sponsored programs. There are a lot of various activities and events. And so those are very important components to this master plan proposal because of the amount of activity that we see at those locations. There have been discussions over the years during my tenure, and I'm sure way before that, about how can we best utilize our spaces? Are we having senior events in the most practical areas? Are we investing in things like commercial kitchens or water filtration system upgrades at the appropriate buildings? And the purpose of this project is to help paint a picture, both short, mid, and long-term for the town, so we can better understand where to allocate those resources. I think what's been lacking from the earlier facilities plan discussion is this programming component. I think this is a critical part in understanding what our needs are, where we will house staff members more permanently, where we will host activities. And since the original discussion about this project several years ago, I think we've seen an influx of additional upgrade type projects for these buildings, and we end up in the conversation not sure if it's the right time to commit to upgrades like ADA accessibility or water filtration, because we're not sure what the vision for that particular facility will be. A great example of this is a subject that we'll discuss in a subsequent town board work session about ADA upgrades to the police department and the justice court. We have already allocated money to design accessibility enhancement for those two structures. One of them, the police department, is far more approachable and simple to enhance. The justice court, on the other hand, is far more complex and would require a very extensive and expensive renovation project to the building. Those types of projects beg the question, is this a facility that's worth investing in? Is this a facility that's worthwhile to the town in adjusting for its programming? How can we make a facility that we're investing in so much work for us better? So that's the purpose of this document. If we want, we can go through some of the various bullet points, but I would defer to the board on how in-depth you'd like to get today. I'm hoping that we can collect and garner some feedback from the board itself so that I can continue to work on this project. Or for that matter, if you say this just isn't the right time, that's an option here as well, to not further proceed with the facilities master plan effort. I understand that there was money budgeted for this project at least one budget cycle ago. I don't know the status of that. That's outside my pay grade in my realm. But in terms of budgeting for this effort, I believe that there were funds available. I would defer to the board as to whether those still exist and if you intend to carry those forward in the upcoming budget request. Still exists. Okay.
I think now is a great time to do this, because we are having more repairs necessary for the buildings. We had to do some significant structural supports in this building. I know we had issue with the roof on the building department, and we're looking at ADA for the police department and Justice Hall. People are talking about, putting in IA systems at the buildings. So I think now is the perfect time to really do a deep dive into what we have, how we can use it, and kind of what the plan is moving forward, so we're not wasting money on projects that then don't matter in the future because we have a different vision. So I think it's a great time.
I agree.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I have some specifics to get into, but just want to hear from the rest of the town board that we want to keep moving forward with this.
If you could shed some light for me. I know last year you had somebody come in or people come in that I had no knowledge of. So what was that?
That was just to see if what, just to sort of have a discussion as to what a facilities master plan would look like, how we break it down, whether, like, what these firms can offer. So it was kind of just a, like, what do you do? And then, like, just tell us what kinds of things you do. We don't have anything set with anyone. We'd have to put this out for an RFQ.
They just came in on their own or?
No, I invited them in. And then that was one firm. And then 2 years ago, when Jerry was supervisor, a different consulting engineer firm came in. So
So that was of no cost?
there was no cost.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just to understand how to write this, like what would we want them to do? What do they offer, to kind of narrow it down.
Did they submit a report or?
One firm initially sent in an estimate. I don't want it, because we may be putting this out, I don't want to put that out there, but it was very low.
It's for a
And
different
this-
scope of work.
Yeah,
too.
it was a couple of years ago. It was back in 2023, I think. And the pricing didn't make any sense. So that was the firm that came back in last year to better understand what it was, because to have something in the tens of thousands of dollar range didn't make sense, when another firm was sort of like, we think it might be more. And what I had looked at online for other entities, like the University of Rockport, something up in Massachusetts, much bigger scope and much higher cost. So this was just to try and figure out where to go with a dollar amount and how to break this down into manageable pieces. So presumably, both of those engineering consulting firms would come back and bid on this, hopefully.
And I did forward what we had from them to everybody, like months ago.
Yeah, it was like a couple weeks or a month ago.
Forwarded it a few times, I think.
Sure, what do you need now? I guess that's the question, since we know this has been bouncing around a little bit, like the head count. I'm a little confused here in terms of what actually do you need to move forward now?
What was lacking in previous efforts and
I'm just asking, what was lacking, okay, that we couldn't move forward,
we
okay?
didn't have an established scope of work. So when Amber described the firm coming, they described things that they had done in the past and said it would cost about this much. Another firm had said, we have done something like this, and described a project that they had done in the past, and it would cost about that much. The town at that time didn't understand what their ask was going to be, the extent of the scope of work, which buildings we're going to look at, what type of work we would request. For example, would we ask them to examine our current town programming? Would we ask them to examine the regulatory framework of these buildings, accessibility? So the purpose of this document is to gather your feedback on what you think is important and what should be worked on, so we can have a consistent scope of work that can then be asked to those various companies and say, all please let us know how much this would cost. You'd all be working on the same thing. It would be the consistent scope of work. And what I think I've presented you with here is my take on what I think the appropriate scope of work is. So I'd ask that if you had any contributions or concerns, that'd be something we discuss, so we could collectively agree on what that scope should be, and then we can move forward if you agree, to pay for that project. I think most important, probably most relevant to you folks as a town board, is the deliverables section. So there's a little project description to open this. There's a discussion about buildings. Those are fairly straightforward, whether you think those are important buildings to include or not. But then I talk about the handful of categories that we would ask them to examine and what they would deliver to us. Those are both influential in the price of the project, but also in what you get at the end. It's important that we are asking for a scope of work that the town can execute on, that we don't end this project with the need for more studies, more analysis. This is a document that should feed very much into higher level discussions like the comprehensive plan. It should take those types of ideas one step forward as to, where will we conduct these services? How many staff members do we project we're going to have in the next 5 and 10 years? Things like that. There's even one section here, which I think is important about renewable energy. We've talked in various committees now about, what is the town doing about a solar field or solar power on town buildings? Having that discussion any further than that warrants the question of, well, what town buildings are we going to even have in the next 5 or 10 years? Because those projects are expensive. Where can we put solar power, and where is a place worth investing in? So it's a much broader discussion than just, how many staff members do you think we'll have? You can add or subtract these other types of categories as well if you think that they're worthwhile. I've put together what I think is most worthwhile, but that certainly doesn't mean that's the only thing that can be done in these types of projects or that should be done. If there's concerns about cost, obviously we would look to reduce some of these, either the categories of work that's done or the buildings that they're being done. Each of those would reduce the effort.
This looks good. So what we'd end up with, if we go through with this as it's scoped currently, is we'd end up with a comprehensive report about all of our buildings, how they're currently being used, and what the possible deficits are, what repairs would need to be made, and that whole list.
That's
So
right.
from that list, we'd have a picture of where we're sitting now, what challenges we're going to have in the future dealing with the antiquated buildings that we have and the limited space that we have. And then from that, we can take that information and go out to someone to help us with the planning for solving our problems.
If those plans are warranted, I think a very reasonable outcome here is that some things can get started right away. And I think we already know that there are some projects that can get started right away. Just speaking logically and sort of off the cuff, the police department is a great example of a building that serves our current needs, is not likely to change in the near or midterm in terms of scale or staffing. That's a building that jumps out right away as something that we could take action on now about advancing the town's priorities for ADA accessibility, for improving wastewater, IA septic systems. So I don't see this project as an excuse to delay any of those efforts, but I think it answers key questions about those more complex facilities like the Legion or the Town Hall or the Senior Center. And so we can get started on those more apparent projects right away, and we can rely on this to guide us on that mid and long-term planning.
In the specific buildings that you've included, you have kept Justice Court and Police Department in here. And because we're in the process of finalizing those ADA plans, I feel like there is a reason to keep them in here, but I was just wondering what your thinking was.
That's the reason that I kept them in there, is because I would want the consultant to examine the plans that we've proposed so that they understand the scale with which we would have to modify those buildings. An outcome that I could see, particularly for the Justice Court, and I'm speaking a little bit ahead of what your knowledge of the project might be because we haven't had the presentation to the board yet, but the plans that were developed to make the Justice Court accessible require the addition of effectively a new wing on the building. That's what would be necessary to facilitate handicap accessibility and flow through the current first floor, main floor of the structure. I think that size of a project is so substantial in terms of cost and effort that we would want that included in this type of analysis to see, can we provide the public with any more programming or services at that building other than just it being Justice Court. One of the tasks you'll see here is for that programming analysis. And I think the Justice Court, how I envision it, would show up as a building that we have. And if you looked at the schedule of how often it's used, would show a lot of vacancy. And so that would be in conflict with our proposal to spend a sizable amount of money for accessibility but it may present an opportunity to move services from a building that are currently overutilized or undersized. And so you could jointly package this accessibility project as both an ADA enhancement, but also perhaps the inclusion of a program that's normally geared towards seniors at the senior center that's inappropriate for in the basement, or at the Presbyterian Church, or at the Legion Hall, something that could be incorporated over there. And it's not to say that that all works out, or that I have this all worked out in my head as a predetermined answers, but I think that's why a building like that would be included in this postcode.
I think that would help us with grant funding.
Oh, certainly. Any opportunity you have to document your short, mid, long-term plans by professionals puts you to the top of the pile in any sort of grant application for those kinds of needs. I think this helps us with our wastewater management strategy for the town hall complex. I think this helps for ADA accessibility funding. Anytime you have a plan, you're perceived and ranked at a higher priority when seeking money for those types of projects.
We don't have them under buildings, but under programming, would you include Fit Center and nutrition program? Because we currently have
Yes.
it housed at other other organizations.
I would. That's actually a very good suggestion.
The concern being at some point, the school would want they do want us out of the Fit Center. And the nutrition program, they're going through a renovation, so we have a new lease in place, but at some point we may want to pull that.
I guess we would call that both a facility and a program,
Mhm.
because if it's
Yeah, we wouldn't make any changes to their facilities, but just in terms of if we in the future
Right.
needed to incorporate them in our own buildings, especially the Fit Center.
Figuring out if we can either create a space or if we have a space that we could convert, something like that.
Yeah, I didn't include smaller type services like the goodie pile. There's an argument for maybe better examining what happens at the highway department as part of this, but for the purposes of this draft, I did not include the highway department because it appeared to me that was fairly contained, and also crossing, town board, highway, public works. And there are a lot of complicated moving parts about that facility with regulatory frameworks of the landfill and waste disposal. But that's something that could be revisited if the town board felt it would be helpful.
I would, for the moment, I'd say leave them out.
Joe, isn't the priority really to really start cleaning up the center in terms of septics? Isn't that really how this isn't? I mean, obviously the building complex and how we expand in the future and we're accommodating needs, but it isn't one of our really priorities after so many years is really to clean up, since we're conscious of water quality and nitrates and all the rest of the stuff that goes on here. I guess what I'm asking is how difficult can it be to put this together, but not get hung up with fit centers? That's obviously like a phase 5, okay? But right now, what do we do to get our septics cleaned up in the center? We're asking the public to do IAs. We're doing all these other things, and yet we still have maps out there showing septics coming from this center, going into Menantic Creek and going all these other areas. I think that's the criteria. I think that's the number one priority. I think we can accommodate usage, okay, on the police station, Justice Hall, even in this particular building, even if we don't have the ability of building it or don't have the funds to do it. I think we can do certain things to really, to get our stuff cleaned up here.
I agree with you. I'll reiterate that I don't propose this, and I don't see this as an excuse or a delay in any of those other efforts. I think there are some of those septic projects which should be done in the short term, namely the police department. I think that's a great example of work that is ongoing in my office right now to advance those plans. But I also think that we can tailor this scope to make sure that it does not impede with those objectives.
I just wonder whether we can create like a phase, like an A, B, C criteria list, because I certainly don't, obviously the Fin Center is, yes, that is an issue long-term, but that's not what, I think right now, I don't want to get hung up with things that we don't, A, we don't have money for, and B, are not as critical as basically our own septics here.
Right.
So can't we just address some of the, like this, what we're sitting in right now, the police station, the fire department, just the buildings that are right here in the center. Isn't that something that we can do and get something moving with?
It is, and we are actively advancing septic efforts at the police department right now and pending on the justice court. That's about the extent of what I'm able to manage in-house as a one-man show, sort of piece by piece. I'm hoping that this effort will help streamline the subsequent buildings, understanding what's happening at the town hall complex in the near term will help make the design of the septic system move faster. We can go to the health department and present to them what our current flow is, what our projected flow will be, and have them more on board with what kind of system is appropriate for this property, given that it requires a series of variances as is.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that information would aid in streamlining and advancing those septic efforts, particularly at the more complicated structures.
You got my support.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought under water and wastewater, you have specific tasks, calculating sewage flow by building, evaluating code compliance, current and projected programming, and then under deliverables, identifying immediate, short-term, midterm, and long-term. So I thought that was incorporated, but maybe we need to just spell it out slightly.
I don't know how you
A little
spell it
bit
out
more. I'm just tossing it out there, but I thought you had incorporated that into this.
I see that also as a way to protect those decisions in investing at such a scale. The systems will cost a lot of money. This is a way to help ensure that it's appropriate for today and for tomorrow.
Two other things. You have under scope of services, reviewing existing report studies. Do you have a list? I see it's there. And then also, again, when we're talking about water and wastewater, just do we have a list of those existing reports available?
I have a rough list that I would refine once the buildings and the scope specifics are solidified.
Under programming of town services and buildings, you had recently purchased structures. And I wasn't,
Say that again, please.
Programming of town services and buildings, the first line, the town has existing buildings as well as recently purchased structures. I was wondering if that was a hangover
From when we bought that building next door and then we tore it down.
was it that, or was it there was a proposed acquisition?
It's supposed to read recently modified. That would be the lot next door. Yeah. Good catch.
Benjamin, did you have anything you wanted to add here?
No, not really. All good. I think it's, a worthy project. We just have to decide how to move forward. So I support it. Let's get a framework in place. Great.
What kind of timeline?
How good do you feel about the document before you? If you think it needs substantial modification, then I would say as much time as you think you need to get consensus. If you are relatively satisfied, I can prepare this to go out for RFP and advertise within a week or two.
I'm good with it.
I'm good. I just have a couple minutes. I'll give you this.
Yeah, would you like to agree to send comments or meet with me for feedback in the next week or 2 weeks?
Yeah, we've got a meeting on the 29th, so if we can authorize issuing this on the 29th, that would be nice.
Yes, okay, that would be great.
Can the senior center and the EMS be handled at a later date?
If you,
To make it a little bit more faster process? I mean, because I
I don't
That
think
might
I want to
increase
see that. I mean, it gives you more options if you include the buildings. It's a more comprehensive look at it.
I would like to include the senior center in our midterm plan for septic improvements also. That's a lot of the reasoning that it's here in the first place, also because I'm not super familiar with all of the programming that happens there. There's some other quasi outside activities with, doctors and, but I don't see the senior center being addressed in the short term, so I don't object to it being on the list, but I would understand if I understand your position, so I would defer to you guys on how you want to handle it.
what can I do to help you?
Give me the green light and hit the button. Do you have a red button over there or something? Yes, consensus from the board is all that I need.
I'm good with this as
You mean a green button?
Green button, right, yeah. The easy
button is the red,
yeah. Easy staples button. Yeah. Okay,
I'm good with this as written, yeah.
Do we
okay.
have any questions from the public on this?
There is a master capital planner in the audience.
Don't be
Pressure.
intimidated, Joe, you got this.
Anyone on Zoom?
I have lots I could say, but
I'll do this.
Pam?
I suppose my only question is this in fact going to include all buildings owned by the town? Because you just made that purchase on Cartwright that has a building on it, correct? So is that going to be included into this master plan as well, that maybe a fit center would move into, or a community center? I mean, I know that has been discussed to use that building for something for town services as well. And do we know of all the town-owned buildings that should be included in this elsewhere on the island? I mean, I realize we're concentrating on the center buildings, but there are others, I believe, and I think that should be vetted as well before you move forward with this.
With respect to the Josephson property, that was acquired with CPF funds, and so it comes with its own host of restraints on what can actually be done there, and that's being investigated with legal now to see what, in fact, it's very limited. So it's not like we could use it for a community center, we can use it for passive recreation. There's some historical things that could be done. So that's being investigated, but it doesn't necessarily belong in this group unless we suddenly discover that it's got a broader possibility of use, which I don't think will end up being the case.
It wouldn't hurt to include it if we know what the limitations of it are, because there are certain programs that could probably work in that building.
I don't think that's the place to be here at this time. I think I don't think that should be included in this conversation.
I agree.
Okay, then I just suggest that perhaps the language should change, that it's not all recently purchased buildings, because
Oh, that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
that's
changed that.
changing.
that's
Yeah.
my issue, actually. Okay.
Yeah, that
thanks.
wording's going to get fixed. Thank you.
Also, maybe the study can help us sort of highlight the kind of property or buildings that the town should be looking to acquire in the future, because, we don't own enough of the island's property to really support town activities going forward. And I think we seriously need to develop a program about what we need to acquire to support the activities of the town. But I also don't want to slow this down. If that's going to add a whole nother piece to this, that's going to just delay everything. We can find another way to solve for that.
I feel like that would actually fit in well here because, this will give us a look at everything we have, and it'll also kind of let us know what we need. And, acquiring property could be one of their possible solutions for solving some of the issues. So I think it fits in here without taking too much extra time of work.
Okay.
Like it'll tell us what our shortcomings are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that suggestion.
Okay,
Thank you, Joe.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Next, we have waiting list procedures. So when we redrafted the pouring code, or the waterways code, one of the things that was open was the waiting list procedure for moorings and also the Condon Creek Town Dock. So I don't know, Amber, if you want to address like what the current procedures are.
This is the current procedure. We've been following this procedure for over a year now, maybe 2 years. Minus a little tweaks here and there that are implemented in this. It works out great. The only thing I didn't see is if the town wants to charge to be put on the wait list.
Okay.
That's not clear. It's up to you.
I'm sorry, Amber, you sort of dropped off there. Did you say we're trying to decide if we should charge people for being on the wait list?
Yeah, so currently you charge Darien Harbor waiting list $27 in full.
Mm-hmm.
Silver Beach waiting list does not charge. WAWB grid does not charge, so it's from past procedures. So you need to decide if you want to charge people to be placed on the waiting list and you want to charge them yearly because it's going to be renewed.
Is there, what is it, an annual charge?
Currently for one waiting list, yes. So any application that you process through online mooring, the town gets charged $7.
$7 per year.
Correct. So do you want to charge the applicants $7 because that's what we are going to get charged? Do you want to charge them more to be put on this waiting list, which I don't see a need for?
Well, we certainly have some administrative expenses in thinking about maintaining these lists. And, it doesn't make sense to allow people to languish on these lists forever with no consequence because there's no incentive to, drop off if you don't need it again. And we end up with all these, let's see.
Well, Condon Creek, for example, has 150 some, probably more.
That's the dock.
Yes.
What about the mooring? So that dock is included in this mooring?
It's a separate.
Separate item,
Two
right,
separate documents.
okay. So with moorings, do you have a waiting list for moorings,
On the gridded areas.
the gridded areas?
In Silver Beach. Okay. Which is more of a slip.
When you say Silver Beach, mean in the lagoon?
Silver Beach.
I mean, for moorings, if we're charging $27 a year for Darien Harbor, why aren't we charging the same amount for other mooring lists?
It's never implemented. It's in the town board's decision.
That's why it's here.
Yeah, that's so we can make that call, Ben.
Hmm.
It just was never done in the past. Doesn't mean we can't or shouldn't. It's just not what we're doing at the moment.
Well, let me go on record as saying, I think we should be.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a cost administratively for you to set somebody up on online mooring to add them to a waiting list. But then once they're on it, then it's up to them to renew with online mooring and they've.
It must be the residents and all of the
check
qualifications.
things.
Yes. You have to make sure they're residents. Some people are not aware of that.
So when someone signs up on the wait list, then you still have to go through and check all the qualifications to make sure that they actually qualify to be on the wait list. So it does take your time. I mean, it doesn't take long, but it takes time. So that's something that we should probably get covered.
And do people know where they are on the list?
Yes, it's online. It's all through online mooring.
Right.
It's all through online mooring. You can look.
Okay.
I mean,
Anyone who's registered with an account through online mooring can see these waiting lists.
I was on the Darien Harbor wait list for 6 years, maybe 7, before I got my mooring in Deering Harbor. And Dorothy Ogar had to track all that, and she would call me once a year, or whenever I'd walk into town hall, she'd ask me. I mean, there is some administrative mishigash on our end that should be covered.
And this includes all stake and pulley moorings as well,
No, only
No.
gridded areas.
just the grid. Where are they in line? Where are they accounted for? Stake and pulley.
Stake and pulley, like you have Montclair. You only have, what, 8 there? So there's a waiting list for that. Someone, you go on the waiting list, someone relinquishes their stake and pulley, you contact the person on the list, first list. You want it, yes or no? No. Go to the bottom. You go to the next person.
Is that an online mooring as well?
Mhm.
Okay, so all the wait lists are on online mooring now.
Most part, Bo was putting that together, but again, we needed to move forward with the town board decision
Yeah,
before we
how we're
kind of.
gonna-
You said Montclair, but other areas of the island are the stake and pulley, where do they fall under the same?
No, that would be your regular mooring application, mooring/stake application. So the gridded areas and only waiting list areas are, whether it's full, then you establish a waiting list. So WA grid, WB grid, that would constitute for a waiting list if they're full. Any other moorings you give to lat longs and WMAC reviews it and tells you yes or no.
It's like Daniel Lord Road, are their stake and pulleys full? I didn't feel like that this summer, but yeah. Okay.
Just random question. How many town moorings are there in Deering Harbor?
I'm gonna pull it up because Gordon asked me that last time and I didn't give him the answer.
Mhm.
I will tell you in 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Considering the fact that there is administrative costs for us to manage it, I think $27 isn't that bad. $7 covers the fee for online moorings, and then the 20 covers the administrative costs of reviewing it.
Mhm.
And then people have, it's a little stake in the game, if they really want to stay in, they'll pay the $27.
That's on an annual basis.
Mhm.
So we switched over the renewals for moorings from 3-year renewals to annual.
So it's just for the wait list.
How do you get the $27? I'm just out of curiosity. Why is it not 25 or
Someone decided to put in the past.
is it added in the fee? Is that what that is all about?
$7 is the online mooring application fee. That is what online mooring charges us.
And for this, even for this wait list?
Any application that you process through the system, you charge $7.
$7 on a $25 wait list.
Well, so it would be
20.
$7 would cover the online mooring fees, $20 would cover the clerical to check and make sure they qualify. That's the 27. That's where we came up with that. And that's what they're charging for the Deering Harbor waitlist, so might as well make it the same for everybody.
We're really doing the background, the administrative piece. So what is the $7 covering again, just in collecting the fees?
Online.
Online.
The online,
is
the
a
online.
Service, it's a
Right,
software
service.
program that we
I
utilize.
know,
That's what they charge us.
I know.
So
It
I
just,
understand your question.
Yeah, but
well, I understand the question is it's only a $25 item, okay, and it's $7.50 for administrative.
what?
For the online cost, you're saying is $7, right?
Well, online mooring charges us that, and then the $20 would be to cover our administrative costs.
Okay,
I think we need to write it in such a fashion so that if online mooring charges us more than $7 going forward, that we write, when we do finish up writing these, Thomas, that we don't have to revisit it every time they raise their fees. It's their fee plus.
The online mooring.
Yes. Right. Yeah, or whoever vendor we use going forward.
That way the person putting themselves on the wait list covers the cost of the transfer.
So I have a question of the two town board liaisons to WMAC. Have they reviewed this? Where do they stand with these procedures? Have they signed off and they're ready to go?
This is moved forward, yes, from the committee.
I know Bo's been very involved with this. We should just make sure he's finished with any edits or suggestions he has, and we should incorporate the fees. Is there anything else that we're missing? So we can have the updates made for the fees, get a draft of these back to us, and maybe we can adopt these on September 29th. I'll say yes.
Yeah, it's the same for the dock as it is for the mooring. I wanted to make sure that I'm not missing something critical, because I know a previous proposal for the Condon Creek dock, I wasn't happy with. But this seems to be different than that, so just wanted to make sure I'm not missing something.
When you're looking for that, one last question I have is I do not believe we've had age requirements on as far as procedures go. So will we have people who will get kicked off the list because they
In my opinion, who's on the list, the age requirements and that, they've been on that list for years, they should stay on that list. Going forward from when we adopt it, that's when we should.
cover it? Okay, so someone who put their infant son on, stay on.
Yeah, in my opinion, I mean, I think that's fair. They've waited how many years already?
I don't think it's.
Although there has been no cost to them for staying on that.
The dock slips are $500.
500 for, yes, and then 350 for commercial fishing.
Commercial. That's not here. I don't think.
Yeah, these are-
That's what we set that via resolution periodically and we do increases.
Do we want is there a reason why it's 16 years of age on the moorings and 18 on the dock? They should probably be the same.
I mean, you only need to be what? How old to drive a boat? So.
Yeah, I thought it was 16 to drive a boat. You have to go take the class. I have to look at it.
Well,
Felt like a
everybody
better
needs
boater's
a
license.
boating license now, so.
Yeah, you need a boating license, but I don't know what the requirements for that are.
I think
But we
it's
should.
16.
It's young, I think it's 14.
Like the mooring. Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like the mooring was a lower age because you did have some teenagers who used to
Right.
go out
Well, I mean, it should,
fishing.
if that's the case, then we should just make it match the age at which you can get your boater's license. Because then you're, a legitimate boater.
Mhm.
If you're 7, you're not gonna be 4. It's not gonna work, but.
Maybe 18 is because you're a boat on a dock and so you need to own the boat? I don't know. Although you guess you need to own the boat to be on the mooring too.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, correct. So I would make that the age at which you can get a boating license.
What about ownership of the boat? Can you have ownership before you're 18?
Can be put on
Yeah.
title.
You can have a title in your name, any age. You can have title of guitar in your age.
And just state your name for the record.
Michelle Butler. You can have a boat in your name, regardless of whether you have the license or not. You can own it.
Mhm.
At 10 years old, you can own a boat.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go with boater license then. Okay. Perfect. All right, so we'll get those changes made, just recirculated, so we'll take a look at it before before the town board meeting on the 29th. So we're gonna vote.
Sounds good. Okay.
That was it for formal agenda items, and board member reports. Capital planning met this morning, and I think the highlights from that is that we have the Ferry Flood Hazard Mitigation report that's is in review right now, and hoping for that to get Joe to finish looking at that, and we'll have a presentation in early October for the town board, and presentation on that by the engineering consulting firm that worked with us on that. And also coming up in October, ADA compliance projects, an update for the Justice Hall. Police Department has been previously presented to us, but since it's been a little while, we'll do both Police Department again and Justice Hall, just bring everybody up to speed. And Community Development Block Grant, we were working on if there was going to be excess funds from the 2024 monies, and we think that we can finish all types of ADA projects with those funds up at Goat Hill, and not have to find another town facility so that we don't leave money on the table. Oh, and Joe had mentioned we had submitted a grant for the Suffolk County Soil and Water Conservation District for the Fresh Pond Pilot. That grant was submitted back at the end of March. We just received notification that we were not awarded that grant. But because we had gotten the Suffolk County Water Quality Protection and Restoration Program grant for $65,000 for Fresh Pond, between that and the New York State WQIP, we've got the funding that we need to proceed with Fresh Pond Phase 1. So we didn't ultimately need the soil and water, which was fine. It was kind of just in case. So that's all that I had for now. Anybody else?
The WMAC met last night. They considered the Thompson bulkhead on Pheasant Circle, Pheasant Lane. Question of which one it was, but anyway, it's waterfront there. In place and in kind, and they vote 7-0 to approve. Straightforward application. And then Costello had asked the committee to table Titonis and Vitale applications. He was not going to be able to attend the meeting. He wanted further time,
So table,
but they were put off
table to
to the next meeting.
Titonis, and who was the other one?
Vitale.
Vitale.
Valley, sun is shining or something like
yeah.
that. Midway, South Midway.
When do we have those public hearings scheduled?
29.
Both of them for the-
29th, yeah.
Both of them for the 29th. Okay. I think because they're already scheduled, we will have to open the public hearing, but then we'll adjourn it. So get the reports in for the October. Okay.
Meg, would you mind giving Community Housing Board, since I don't have my notes with me?
Yeah, no problem. Were you done, Albert?
Yes.
Community Housing met on Thursday. And we actually, prior to that, we had an MOU meeting discussion earlier in the day talking about the MOU with CDLI, working on kind of the contract negotiation part of that. So that was earlier in the day, which went
Which
well.
is now going to be a letter of intent.
Right, it's going to be a letter of intent. And then as far as the housing meeting goes, we gave a brief update on that. And then discuss the ADU +1 program. The first round is closed, and they're hoping to get an update from the state on maybe an additional round of funding in the future. What else did we talk about? I just went blank. There was something else that we talked about. I can't remember what it was.
Well, we talked about the pro-housing amendment,
Right.
but we're not ready to move forward on that.
And then the fund balance for the account is 1.2 million. This is my note. Yep. But that was it. It wasn't a very long meeting. I think it went 5 minutes.
I mean, the only thing to add is the meeting on the letter of intent Thursday morning went very well, and we made major progress. So things are moving along nicely on that front.
Dave, not to put you on the spot, I'm just curious, where are we with the ADU +1 program? How many have been facilitated by CDLI?
Well, there's like 16 in the line, right? So 2 of them are already complete. And then the rest of them are in various stages of approval and permitting and construction. So right now, I think there's 16 kind of teed up for the program. But each one has very different needs, so they're all going to happen at different times.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Now, does CDLI track these? Are these supposed to be
Yeah.
rental units too, or
So, no,
how does that work?
It's a program that's run through the state. So it's not actually a town program, it's a state program, and CDLI is running it for them. So they're the ones who are helping with the boots on the ground. And the housing board is coordinating with CDLI to help them work with the local population. So it's actually a state program, and CDLI is helping the state execute the program. So when a homeowner enters into a contract, it's actually with the state. It's not with the town. So it's not town money or anything. And so what the housing board is doing is helping to get the advertising out, helping to get people interested, and then helping them sign up, helping them with the logistics of the whole thing. So CDLI is doing all the tracking. They do all the follow-up. So every year there's an inspection, there's a covenant on the ADU, so it can only be used for year-round rental. So they track all that. They keep track of the contracts, they come and they actually do inspections to make sure it's being used as it was designed and that, you know, you don't have like 12 families in it. And so they keep track of all of that. So it's all for the state. They run that program.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. But yeah, so that was kind of what we discussed.
I was gonna say, here's the agenda.
Oh,
You
thank
said you
you.
were trying to figure out.
Yeah, ADU +1. Yeah, there really wasn't too much on it. Oh, yeah, that's the thing, the survey.
Yeah.
So it's been about 5 years since we did the first community housing plan. And so they're starting to think about the next round of the community housing plan, the update. So what they wanted to do is a community needs a survey that would go out to everybody. And so they want to put out together an RFP to hire a firm who does this professionally, so it's done correctly. So that's what they're looking for. They do have grant funding to do it. So they applied for a grant, I want to say last year or.
It was part of the CDBG grant.
Yeah.
So it was part of the 65,000, 30,000 for the housing survey
Right.
in the 2025 months.
Right. So they do have the funding to do the survey. So now they're launching into drafting the RFP to hire someone to help execute the survey so that they can use that information to update the housing plan in the next year to 2 years. That was the one that I blanked out on and couldn't remember.
I figured if you looked at the agenda, you would
Yeah.
know. So I brought it
So
up.
yeah, that's where we're at.
Mhm.
I knew there was one thing.
Benjamin, Gordon?
I just had, I knew the agenda was kind of short today, so I just wanted to bring up 4 items that we had discussed in the past and I thought maybe is worthwhile discussing today, and I just did random, okay? I know that we had talked there's been a lot of discussion over Middle Harbay Road. We talked about the noise issue we had on Tar Kettle Road and on Serpentine. We had talked about the Hilo Shore that Ken was supposed to get back to us on. And then obviously we talked earlier on in the year about historic districts, that we were trying to create something. And we got hung up with not having a clerk, or not having the funding for the clerk. So I just would like to just see if there's that, do we have any updates on any of these things, like starting with the Middle Harbay Road? Is there, that's a town landing, is there anything any update on that at all? Like, where are we going, that is going to be a town landing? It is a town landing?
It is a town landing. I think,
It's never changed.
yeah, I think the request is just that it be added to,
Yes, the shoreline access point.
right, and we haven't updated that plan because we don't have, that committee's not in existence now. So I guess what we could do is just maybe do a resolution to.
My only concern is we have these access points. We want to make sure as a town, we don't lose our access points. Okay, and even though I know there's no parking there, it still is something that people still should have access and maybe clearly identify that piece of property, okay?
Thomas, we're gonna put that on your very long list of things to get caught up on. So we can go over,
The other one was we had a lot of feedback from the community on the noise. I was wondering if those meetings had ever taken place with the Tar Kettle group, okay? And has that, anything further moved on with that at all?
you were on that list of people to be participate, so no, it hasn't happened. You would have been invited to be part of it. We will pick that up again. I just had paused it because when I was working on the budget, that's all that I was working on. So if you want to do the reach out, just, although I now have more bandwidth, but for a couple of weeks, I had no bandwidth because all I was doing was budget and just trying to make sure that these meetings moved along, so.
If you don't mind, could I?
Yep, if you want to pick that up.
Okay. Okay, thank you, okay, and Hilo, that was one where we had the drainage issue, and that that community reached out to us in terms of taking over roads and so forth, and Ken was going to give us a report.
Yeah, he's working directly with Hilo to coordinate that with Corazini, so that's being taken care of. He's already on top of that.
So we're responding to the Hilo Shore group.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a legal component to that that also needs to be investigated.
Yeah, but Ken's been working on that. Yeah. I actually talked to him about it not too long.
And the only other issue is this issue with the historic district.
I thought you were handling that.
No, we left off, okay, where we didn't have any funding for it because we didn't have funding for a clerk, or we didn't have the bandwidth for a clerk.
But a historic district or a historic committee?
Historic.
Yeah, okay, you were saying district, and I thought that was, yeah.
We are now in budget meetings, so
This would be the time,
this would be the time.
okay?
We also have to figure out the who and getting available hours, but we can talk about that when we get into the budget, so.
That's it.
All right.
I had the health and wellness.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So health and wellness met on Friday. They have some budget requests that I was going to bring to the table tomorrow, but for their budget, they're looking for $1,500 for their operating costs because they do about 4 events a year, which is about the mailing, like the ad is $225. And then they're looking to do a community needs assessment. And so they're thinking another $500 for mailing. So that's where they came with $1,500 for their operating costs instead of $200, which is what I believe is in there now. So I think that, well, they never really had a budget to begin with. Well, yeah, they just didn't really have a budget because we started them in like the middle of last year or the end of the year. So that was one thing. And then the other one was more consistent time for the social worker. And that was someplace where we made a cut. And I, in my personal budget, put that back in. So that's something that I'd like to discuss moving forward is how we want to handle the social worker because I did make adjustments for salary in my drafts to discuss at the table,
Okay.
so that was
That's-
something that they felt strongly about.
And we'll pick up that discussion as well in the
Yes.
budget sessions.
Yes. And then they're working on like a community needs assessment. So what they've done so far is met with individuals to get their ideas and feedback on what kind of social and mostly social and mental health kind of wellness needs people are experiencing in the community. And now they're going to try to do some group interviews with different demographics to see if they have different perspectives. And then they want to do a written survey out to the public to get feedback. And the whole purpose of this is to see what kind of services we need to try to either partner with other municipalities to bring to the island, or what kind of resources we need to advertise better to our community so that we can help them make connections with what they need. So as part of the Health and Wellness Committee, that's kind of their mission, is to make sure that people are able to find the services and resources they need. So they want to make sure that they're providing what the community actually needs instead of what they think the community needs. So that's part of the outreach that they're trying to do. And they just kind of finished their summer recap of all their events. And they're moving forward. So they've had Brain Day and then Overdose Awareness Day were the most recent two events they had, and they were pretty well attended. But yeah, so that was the last committee I had. So those are going to be coming up in budget season again.
Okay. Which, yes, we will have two budget sessions tomorrow, one from 10 to 12, and then the other one from 1 to 4. So those will be the next two coming up. And just as a reminder, we're going to finish going, well, not finish, we'll go through the B fund overview, DA and DB overview in the morning. Hopefully we can get those taken care of in the morning, and then in the afternoon, start with the A fund and start to go line by line. And you're getting signups for different department heads to come in.
Waiting for Joe, and I gotta pencil myself in there somewhere too, because I'll also be,
Right.
revision.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right. I would like a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of an employee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.